Morning, guys, of grade 9. Today, inshallah, we're going to start a new section, chapter 20, section 2, the marine ecosystem. So here, once we talk about marine ecosystem, so simply in the first of the beginning, we could know that about 72% of the entire surface of the earth is covered by water. So that's represent, or the most surface of the earth is covered by water. But this part could be classified into freshwater or marine or salty water. So freshwater and salty water, they could be considered as two different ecosystems because the types of living organisms that survive in the freshwater, of course, will be completely different than the type of living organisms that could live in marine ecosystem. But we're just going to study the marine ecosystem. We'll start by the marine ecosystem because they present the major amount because most of the surface of the earth is covered by oceans, okay? So which they are the huge water bodies that contain a lot of living organisms. So we're just talk about the marine ecosystem. First of all, here we start to once we talk about the marine ecosystem, as an ecosystem, we know that it's made of biotic and abiotic factors. The biotic factors represent the living organisms that survive in that place, while the abiotic factors represent non-living things that could affect the life in that place. So here I just need you to remember or to think about the three abiotic factors in the marine ecosystem. Just list three abiotic factors that could affect the life in ecosystem. So some of you are gonna say the sand, rocks, type of water, okay? So all this is true, and you can add a lot of other abiotic factors that could affect here. For example, you could add that depth of the water, okay, the sunlight of it, or the availability of sunlight, temperature. All these are abiotic factors that could form or could change the form of life that found in the ocean. So here let's start. What are objectives of that lesson? First of all, we need to find the abiotic factors that shape the marine ecosystem, describe the four major zones of ecosystem, and describe five marine ecosystems. Okay, so let's start here, guys, to find. First of all, we said that the abiotic factors that could shape the marine ecosystem include a lot of things as we mentioned before, okay? But the most important factors are the water temperature and the water depth and the amount of the sunlight that could pass through the water, okay? And actually, the three abiotic factors somehow they are related to each other because as we could predict, by increasing the depth, the availability of sunlight will decrease, and of course, the temperature will decrease. So somehow they are depending on each other or they are related because the sunlight is the source of the heat, which is going to warm the water, and at the same time, as the depth increases, the availability of sunlight will decreases. Okay, so they are related to each other. So, like this, we said that the marine ecosystem is shaped by these three factors, which means as the depth of the ocean increases, the availability of sunlight will decrease and the water will be cooler. That will affect the form of the life, which means as we go deeper in the ocean, the different types of living organisms will survive or they will live in the high depth of ocean, include living organisms which are different than other areas which little deep or even shallow areas. So that's here which we're going to discuss in detail during our lesson. First of all, we need to highlight a very important thing, which is planktons. What are planktons? So this is a very, very important thing to know. Planktons, they are living organisms which are tiny, too small, and they cannot hold themselves against the current. That means they are just flowing with the water, okay, or they are float with near to the water surface because they are so tiny. Also, they are so tiny, but because they are found in trillions, and most of these plankton are photosynthetic, that means they're able to make their own food by photosynthesis process, which means they are producers. So actually, plankton they represent the base of the food chain on the ecosystem of ocean or the marine because they are able to produce the oxygen which is needed to compensate the oxygen that will be consumed from water by other aquatic living organisms. And also, it could represent the source of the food for many living organisms that survive in the ocean. So here, let's pass to the temperature, the first abiotic factor that could shape this. So temperature actually has a great effect on the form of life that's found in the ocean. Okay, so we are gonna find the temperature regarding to the graph that you could see. The temperature doesn't change gradually in the ocean. Actually, it increases dramatically, or sorry, it changes dramatically, which means we could find a huge change within the depth of the water. So as you could observe here, that's mean this just on the surface of the water. Okay, that's mean from the surface up to 3 meters down, 300 meters down. That represents the surface zone, okay, in which the have available sunlight, and that's where the place which is gonna be warmer, okay, place. So that's the warmer place. The temperature heat could, as you could see, it could be about 25 degrees Celsius. But once we start to go deeper, just 100 meter deeper, okay, the temperature drops about 5 degrees Celsius. Another 500, another 100 meters, the another 5 degree, and so on. That's mean just from 300 meter under the water to 700 meter, the temperature decreased about 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's represent a huge change in the temperature range, and of course we could imagine that will affect the different forms of life that could found. That mean if we compare the living organisms found in that area, they will be completely different than the living organisms that found in this region, because there is a huge change in the temperature regarding to the different amount of sunlight which is available in that place. And as we go deeper, you can find there is a huge decline in temperature, or that temperature start to drops. Okay, it could reach 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, at higher depth. Okay, or starting from 1,200 meters. Okay, down, temperature could reach 0 degrees Celsius. Of course, like this, you could imagine. Okay, there is a not gradual change or uniform change of temperature. It's a dramatic change from region to another. Okay, regarding to this change in temperature, of course, different living organisms will live in different areas in the place. Also, we could find there are other factors that could affect the temperature, not only the availability of sunlight. Also, we could find that areas of the ocean which is near to the equator, of course, will be warmer than the areas which are closer to the poles. Okay, for example, the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean extend from the equator up to the or down to the poles. Okay, so as we move farther from the equator, of course, the temperature will be cooler. So the living organisms which are survive in the warm water, of course, they have different adaptations than the living organisms they are survive in the semi-frozen water near to the poles. Okay, so also temperature that could change, okay, regarding to the position of the earth to the sunlight, meaning within the seasons. Okay, in summer, first water is warmer than in winter, so that which cause or that affect the behavior of some living organisms. For example, the whales, they migrate, okay, from the cooler water to the warmer water, okay, during winter, just to be able to reproduce. Even some living organisms, when the water is too cold or too hot, they are not able to eat. So here, even the change of temperature could affect the behavior of living organisms, and of course, that will affect the form of the life in that place. So, like here, we could find that the temperature has a great effect on the biodiversity, or the could affect the form of life that found in the ocean. So here we pass to the depth and sunlight, which are highly related to each other. Regarding the depth and the sunlight, okay, the more or we go deeper in the ocean, of course, the availability of sunlight will decreases, and that of course will affect the form of different living organisms in that place. Regarding to the depths and the availability of sun water, we're gonna divide the ocean into actually four regions. First one, the interradial zone, then second one, the Nearctic zone, then the oceanic zone, and finally the benthic, okay, zone. So let's find what difference or what makes these four regions are different from each part. So the first one here, the interradial zone. So interradial zone, actually, that the connection between the shore and the water, or that's the place which the water is gonna meet the land. Okay, and actually, this important thing here, let's watch this. That's here the interradial. So this part actually it's a very shallow water, and actually this water will okay, or this part which is most affected by tides and ebbs, in which the waves are moving okay forward and backward. So during the movement of forward backward, okay, this part may be uncovered. That means the water doesn't cover it. So the living organisms in that place they will expose to the air at certain times of the day due to the tide and ebbs. So like this here, we could find that living organisms in that place they must have a kind of adaptation which enable them okay to survive or to expose to the air. Also okay, they also be able to stick themselves well okay to the floor to be able to hold themselves against the force of the waves and something like that. So of course the kind of living organism in that place will differ than the other places. So what are kinds of living organisms that we could find in that place? So we could find there are seagrasses, okay, we could find also the periwinkles, snails, and horns. Okay, they are common in that place. Okay, sea stars, some anemones, and so even some crabs. So they are living organisms that could found in terrestrial zone. As we go deeper, or just we pass in the ocean, so we could find there is a slope, okay, that depth increases. So as depth increases, we're gonna find that the availability of sunlight decreases, and of course the temperature decreases, which cause a new form of living organisms to found or to be another habitat for other living organisms. So in the Nordic zone, okay, you're gonna find we are not that far from the shore, but we have greater depth. Okay, so the water becomes deeper and the ocean floor start to slope downward, and the water is warmer. Okay, is warm at the surface, okay, as it receives sunlight, but somehow it's gonna be colored down. So here we in that place we're gonna find we have variety of living organisms. Okay, that's so we can find the corals, turtles, fish, even dolphins. Okay, they could live in that place. Okay, so that is the Arctic zone, and of course you can find some small colorful fish they could find in that place. That's why special divers once they dive just to explore the diversity of living area, they somehow dive in that area because it's not that deep, and at the same time it has a lot of or a huge variety of living organisms, so they could see a lot and can find it's interesting. Then we pass to the third area, which is the oceanic zone. So oceanic zone actually, guys, that represent the open area or the large part of the ocean. Okay, so the oceanic zone, the sea floor drops sharply. That means we have a greater deep. Okay, now this contains the deep water and the open ocean. Planktons can be found near to the surface. Animals such as fish, whales, and sharks, okay, they could find in that place. So oceanic zone, this kind of animals somehow they feed on what drops from the surface. That mean here the zooplankton, or sorry, some zooplankton. That mean they are not photosynthetic, they are floating. So small fish can feed on them, and then large fish they feed on the small one, and then the larger feed, and so on. And also here we could find some drops. What that means that some animals or some living organisms which are gonna fall from the surface down. Okay, so they will be eaten by the larger living organism, and so on. So here like this, okay, we could in that ocean or this oceanic zone, okay, the animals adapt to the deep, okay, so they could hold a like kind of pressure, okay. So we could find whales, squids, okay, they can be found in that zone. Also fishes that glow can be found in very deep dark water. Okay, so then we pass to the last one here, which is the Pacific zone. So the Pacific zone that's actually considered a harsh conditions, okay, in which not that much diversity could be found in, or that mean not living organisms or have the ability to adapt with this kind of environment or this kind of habitat, because actually there is no sunlight at all in that place. Okay, it's too cold or extremely cold, and here there is not all living organisms can live in this. So they have special adaptation that could enable them to live in this dark cold water. Okay, for example we could kind certain types of fish. Okay, you know this is scary fish which is already like that the one that appears in Nemo movie. Yes, actually that's here they already it's not just fancy creatures. No, they are actually creatures found in the deep ocean here. Also we could find some kind of crabs, okay, and that we can find kinds of worms and bacteria they could survive in. Some of these bacteria, okay, actually they are chemosynthetic. That means they can make their food by chemosynthesis process, in which they use some chemical or inorganic elements that already pumped from the volcanic vents, because we know sometimes here there's a kind of boundaries. Okay, that's mean the boundaries of the earth they move apart, okay, creating cracks that allow magma to come out, which creates like volcanoes or volcanic islands at the ocean floor. So this, okay, is what we said the pure plastic material or what is pumped from the volcano includes some organic compounds. These compounds could be, or these elements could be used by this kind of bacteria to make their own food, and other living organisms they could feed in that bacteria, and so on. So here like these guys that represent the different parts of the ocean depend on that change and the depth and the availability of sunlight, and of course temperature. So we're gonna stop this part. Okay, so we already studied, okay, on top page 507 of your, okay, textbook. So please study this part very well, and if you have any question I'm waiting for your question next time. Thank you guys and goodbye.